Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. We are jumping straight into a strategic deep dive today. Our mission really is to give you a blueprint, a way to transform all that ambiguity you see in distributed teams.
The guesswork.
Exactly. And turn it into clear, predictable success. We've been looking at sources all focused on this urgent need to build digital trust.
And it is urgent. I mean, it's a real business imperative now. The numbers are pretty stark. You have something like 4 in 10 U.S. jobs with some remote work allowed.
Right.
But here's the kicker. 60% of managers say they struggle. They struggle to evaluate, to connect with their teams. And that friction, it's not just a culture problem. It actually slows everything down.
It hurts the bottom line. So let's define our terms. What are we actually talking about with digital trust?
Well, the sources are really clear on this. It's confidence.
Confidence in what?
Confidence in the information you get, confidence in people's actions, and confidence in your access to what you need. It's all about creating psychological safety.
So people can stop worrying.
Exactly. Stop worrying about being seen online. Stop guessing what their boss expects and just focus on the work, on the outcome.
That's that old HBR idea, right? That high-performing groups are built on reliability and transparency.
It's the digital version of that. When you get that right, you create these predictable rhythms, and that's where the efficiency comes from. It's efficiency through clarity.
So the core promise of this deep dive, for you listening, is to help you move from that anxiety-inducing world of time tracking.
The green dot.
The tyranny of the green dot, yes. And move to a model based on results delivered. We're going to lay out some clear policies and some quick wins that map to the big challenges. Visibility, alignment, communication. So let's start with the foundation, the big principle that holds it all together. It's a mindset shift. Outcomes over hours.
This is the #1 strategy for remote accountability. It solves the surveillance problem from day one. Because when you prioritize measurable, impactful outcomes instead of, keystroke logging or constant check-ins, you empower your people. Accountability goes up, but so does morale.
Okay, but I can hear the pushback already. How do you stop outcomes over hours from just becoming a different kind of micromanagement where everyone's just chasing the next check mark and nobody innovates?
That is the crucial question, and the answer is autonomy. The two have to go together.
So it's not just about delegating tasks.
No, not at all. If the success criteria are super clear, the manager's job changes. You're not a supervisor anymore, you're a coach. Your main job becomes removing roadblocks for the experts you hired.
So on a practical level, what does that look like on a Monday morning? How do you make success, totally unambiguous?
You define measurable outputs, not just activities. You need published, concrete examples of what done looks like, and then you use shared tools, Asana, Jira, Miro, whatever, to show the status of the work itself.
Checking the artifact, not the person.
Checking the artifact, not the green dot. That's the mantra. You should be looking at committed code, a finished design, a documented decision, not someone's online status.
And that's how you solve those visibility gaps and stop the culture from drifting apart. If the results are visible, you cut the anxiety out of the system.
Precisely. And once you have that mindset in place, you need the mechanics to support it. Which brings us to policies, communication, and time zones.
Right, because without documented norms, every single interaction is a negotiation.
Or just pure guesswork, which is exhausting.
So a concise communication policy is really the backbone here. It creates those predictable rhythms we talked about. Let's start with channel norms, a map for where conversations live.
This map is so vital. Okay, so quick collaboration, clarifying questions, that goes in chat, Slack, Teams, whatever. But, and this is a huge trust builder, big decisions, context, specs, that has to live in a shared doc.
And link to the project ticket.
Link to the ticket, so it's traceable. And then status updates and timelines live on the project boards.
That distinction naturally leads to the whole sync versus async debate. The default has to be asynchronous for routine updates, right?
It has to be. You have to reserve live meetings, Zoom calls, for the really complex, naughty discussions, or, sensitive feedback, things that genuinely need that real-time back and forth.
The goal is protecting focus time. I mean, if a meeting is just an info dump,
it should be a memo or a short video. And when you do meet, you need intense meeting hygiene, a structured agenda, clear owners for each item, strict time boxes, and you always end with action items.
Who, what, and when.
Exactly. Who owns it, what's the deliverable, and when is it due? And you have to have those anti-fatigue rules like no at channel unless the building is on fire.
Which, speaking of different locations, let's talk about time zone fairness. This is a huge one for global teams.
It is. You need a real operating system for this that shares the inconvenience.
And protects everyone's focus time.
Yeah.
The idea of rotating meeting windows is, I think, one of the most powerful ones from the source material.
It's so simple, but so effective. Instead of the team in Asia always taking the 10 p.m. call, you just rotate that late slot between regions every month. It's a clear signal that leadership cares about inclusion, not just their own convenience.
It's about respect. And what about for teams with very little time overlap?
For them, you use a follow-the-sun handoff. The key is a simple, documented checklist. Just, what's the context, what's the priority, who owns it now, and what are the next steps? It keeps work flowing without stalling.
Okay, so we've covered the what and when, but we also need to address the how fast. You mentioned defaulting to async, which means we need clear response time SLAs, service level agreements.
Yes, this isn't about being rigid, it's about creating certainty. And certainty is the bedrock of trust.
So if I send a non-urgent email, I know I'll get a reply within 24 hours.
Right, and you don't have to drop their deep work to respond instantly. A critical chat message might have a 20-minute SLA. It signals urgency without creating chaos. No more frantic pinging.
Okay, so that brings us to our third pillar, visibility and connection. This is about the tool stack and, more importantly, leadership.
And the key with tools is to keep it minimal and integrated. Reliability over novelty. You don't need 12 different apps that do basically the same thing.
The main goal of the tool stack is just to make status checks self-serve.
Totally. A manager should be able to see progress without ever having to ask, hey, what's the status of X? That's why you need things like Jira or Asana with transparent backlogs. And the crucial part is linking all your documents and whiteboards back to those tickets.
So decisions are traceable.
So 6 months from now, when someone asks why a decision was made, the answer is one click away.
That's powerful. But tools are only half of it. You also need those feedback loops to catch sentiment shifts before they turn into retention problems.
Oh, sure. Regular pulse surveys are great for this, and occasional 360s.
Can you define a 360 in this context?
It's just a short, anonymous check-in where you get feedback from your peers, your manager, and your direct reports. It helps you catch those early signals, like a drop in trust within a certain team so you can step in.
But the real leverage, according to the source, comes from leadership behaviors. What does that look like in a remote world where you can't just manage by walking around?
It comes down to consistency. The gap between what a leader says and what they do has to be zero, and they have to model vulnerability out loud.
What do you mean by that?
Admitting mistakes, saying things like, you know what, I missed that context, my apologies, or I made a poor call there, and here's how we're fixing it. That gives everyone else permission to be candid.
That makes sense. And what about when something goes wrong publicly? The idea of public backing seems really critical.
Well, it's non-negotiable. If a project has an issue, the leader takes the heat from stakeholders. They protect the team from blame publicly. Then, internally, you normalize the learning.
Like a mess-ups thread or something.
Yeah. Exactly. A ritual where you talk about what went wrong and what you learned. It replaces ego with curiosity and turns failure into fuel for next time.
So we've got the policies and the leadership behaviors. How do we make this all sustainable? This gets into feedback cadences, onboarding, and measurement.
It's all about those predictable rituals. You need scheduled one-on-ones for support. You need sprint retrospectives that actually lead to action items with owners.
Not just complaint sessions.
No, they have to produce change. And the source also suggests these periodic open forums or Q&A sessions.
Why are those so important for remote trust?
Because in a normal meeting, the loudest voices can dominate. An open forum gives the quieter, more reflective people a dedicated channel to ask questions or float ideas without pressure. It makes sure every voice is heard.
And for recognition, the formula is pretty clear. Praise in public, coach in private.
Yes, and using tools to make sure that recognition is fair and visible. But let's talk about onboarding, because a confusing first few weeks can kill trust before it even starts.
What are the must-haves for a new hire's first 90 days?
3 things. 1, assign a buddy immediately for all the unwritten rules and norms. 2, publish a where work lives map. No guessing what to find docs or boards. And 3, give them a starter project that's scoped for an early, visible win. That success builds their credibility fast.
Okay, finally, measurement.
Yeah.
How do we know if any of this is actually working? How do you measure trust?
You don't measure trust directly, you measure trust indicators, leading metrics.
Of what?
We look at 3 main things: steady engagement, on-time commitments, and handoffs between teams that don't need a lot of rework, and then we track specific behavior metrics.
So observable actions that show the policies are being followed.
Exactly. Things like how often documentation is updated, or key decisions being logged, what are the PR review times for engineering teams. A slow review time tells you there's friction in the workflow, for example.
So you're pairing the quantitative dashboard, the what, with the qualitative feedback from retros and one-on-ones, which gives you the why.
That's the strategic sweet spot. And you have to be willing to iterate. Revisit this whole playbook every quarter or whenever you feel friction. And always, always communicate the why behind any change.
This is where it all comes together as we look forward. The sources are so clear that it's the small, repeatable rituals, not the big, rare initiatives, that actually build trust and move the culture.
It's all about steady, visible intention. The goal is to protect that psychological safety and define expectations.
So here's the thought for you, our listener. The next big challenge isn't just making remote work efficient. It's making it truly inclusive for different working styles, not just for the loudest person in the virtual room.
So we'd encourage you to ask, how might your current policies, maybe unintentionally, exclude people? The quiet thinkers, the people in difficult time zones.
And then commit to testing 2 small ideas from this deep dive this week, just 2. Maybe it's piloting a rotating meeting window for one team, or running a quick 3-question pulse survey on clarity.
Small, visible wins are how you prove that building trust is an intentional act and that it can scale.
Thank you for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast.
And if you want to go deeper on this, the full guide we've been discussing, Building Digital Trust in Remote Teams, Policies and Best Practices by Felix Römer, is linked right there in the show notes.
Make sure to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the future of work and productivity. We'll see you next time.